Hey Ferreira, great to
Hi,
see
Jake.
you. Thanks very much for joining us on Umfer. It's
Thanks for
good
having
to
me.
be here at BNZ. And thanks
Thanks for
for
having
your support as one of our sponsors.
Great.
Yeah, awesome. Umfer is all about inspiring people to achieve extraordinary things. So who and what during your life and career has inspired you?
Oh, look, that's a really good question. I guess I had a really great foundation. I had a mum who was a lateral thinker and excelled in her profession. And I sort of looked at her as a benchmark, and she was exceptionally inspirational in the way she thought. So I guess if I looked at an inspirational figure that has helped me sort of formulate who I am today, I'd be looking at her.
And what about in terms of business? Because I mean, you obviously deal with a lot of business leaders from within New Zealand and around the globe as well, and have over the past 15, 20 years. So who for you in business has really inspired you?
Well, Jake, the guys that have inspired me have been both locally, our ex-CEO and our current CEO, Andrew Thorburn and Anthony Healy have been pretty inspirational men that I've worked with. But I guess there's others like the Steve Jobs of the world. I love people who think differently and creatively around how they run their business and the product they provide customers.
Yeah, awesome. And in terms of your story, personally, Harry, in terms of business, where did it all begin for you?
That started in the early 90s for me, where I had just finished school and I was thinking about what I was going to do for university, and I'd sort of bumped into a couple of friends, finished the army, which was compulsory in South Africa, and bumped into a couple of friends who had just kicked off a business that was importing engine parts from Korea and Taiwan and all over the world, and selling them and distributing them across Africa. And I sort of got involved in that pretty early.
Okay.
And that sort of helped me cut my teeth around how business worked and the things that you needed to do in order to make a business successful,
Right.
and the things that you needed to avoid.
Yeah. So that was before obviously coming to New Zealand in '96. So back in South Africa with that engine parts importing business, what would you say were the greatest lessons that you learned about business back in those early days?
The greatest lessons I learned about running a business, Jake, was how to surround yourself with really good people and people who asked really good questions of you.
Right.
And I thought that really gave me a good foundation to make sure that in later businesses and in the career that I've established at the bank, that I made sure I had good people around me that would advise me around how to take the business forward.
And back in those days in South Africa, when you're running that business, it's almost like a startup, right? So there's a few of you building this company. So what would you say have been the greatest differences and also synergies between this more startup environment in comparison to the corporate environment where you are today?
Look, I think it's completely different, Jake. As a startup, you are thinking about your business 24/7, 365. You eat, breathe, and drink the business you're in. In a corporate, you have a clear strategy, and in leading a business like I do today, it's much more about communication of that strategy and then executing on that strategy. At the end of the day, in a corporate, you're getting paid every second Thursday.
Yeah.
In a startup, it's all about how you generate a business that can sustain you. And I guess that's when I look at synergies, there are synergies, but there also they're clear differences.
So I guess in summary, what would be some of the skills that you believe you can transfer from that startup environment through to the more corporate world?
So one of the skills I think that I've been able to transfer from running a business into the corporate environment, Jake, is essentially taking some of that innovative thinking into a corporate environment. Often what happens in corporates is they take months, quarters and years to get ideas across the line. And I guess what I've brought to this business is the ability to accelerate some of those ideas and innovations. We've got examples like Edge Payroll and Payclip that we brought into BNZ Small Business, which has really helped us remain relevant for customers. So I guess those are the things that I look to transfer.
Okay, fantastic. And I guess now you've been with BNZ for about 16 years. Joining in 99, you've had roles, started off as branch manager and over the years, area managers in areas such as Southern Countries, North Shore, East Auckland, Suburban, East and West and Auckland West. So I guess firstly, why 16 years here? What makes BNZ so great for you?
Jake, what we've been able to do is, in running small businesses, is run our business as if it's a separate business within the banking environment. We've been really agile, we've understood what the customer problems are, and we've been able to adapt a strategy to act nimbly to solve for those customer problems.
Okay, awesome. And in your role as head of small business for the past few years now, I mean, you would have dealt with what I can imagine as sort of thousands and hundreds of businesses, and you would see a lot of successes, a lot of failures, and we continuously hear statistics like there's around about 460,000 small businesses in New Zealand, but only I think about 10% of them end up being successful after so many years. So from having observed so many businesses, what do you believe is the main difference between a successful business and a not successful business?
Well, I think firstly you've got to have a plan.
Yeah.
Secondly, you've got to understand what you're getting yourself into. You need to be exceptionally resilient and be able to take the knocks, but take on feedback. And I think one of the things that I've seen in successful businesses is that they've surrounded themselves with good people, they're exceptionally resilient, and they know where they want to be. And so I guess in a nutshell, I think stick to your core, make sure you've got good people around you, and then the last thing would be make sure that you're taking on that advice and you're adapting your ability and you remain resilient. Okay,
and you talk about a plan. Are the days of sort of a big, huge 30-page business plan behind us? Is it all about just having sort of a lean startup sort of plan? What do you reckon around that?
I think when I talk about plan, it's just have a market validation document. Make sure that you understand the problem that you're trying to solve for.
Yep.
And if you have that and you have a plan around how you're going to execute on that, I think you set yourself up for success.
Okay.
Without having thought through what the problem is, these businesses tend to find themselves in a bit more strife.
Yeah. And you've talked a lot about cash flow before, particularly with PayClip, how cash flow can be one of the biggest, I guess, issues for a small business in the early days. So what's your advice around staying lean so the cash flow doesn't become too much of an issue?
So in terms of cash flow, I think there are three things. Firstly, have good terms of trade. Second, make sure that you keep your operating costs down. And that you deliver a really good quality product. These are the things that help you make sure that you've got good cash flow in your business.
Okay, and where do you see startups wasting the most money?
Startups waste money by not having good terms of trade and maybe blowing out their operating costs.
Right, okay. So in regards to, when a startup's in those early stages trying to raise some capital to take the business to that next level, I guess you're probably a little bit biased, but where's the best place to go to raise that money, and how should they go about that?
There's numerous places, Jake.
Yeah.
Firstly, there's friends and family, and often startups start there first.
Yeah.
There's traditional bank lending, and traditionally you'd have to have some security.
Right.
But mostly you'd be looking at either friends, family, or people you know that are prepared to invest in your business.
Yeah. Okay. So BNZ's the best bank to go to?
I'd absolutely, unequivocally say that.
Okay, brilliant. And we've talked to a lot of young people out there who have these ideas for businesses but just don't really know where to start. In terms of starting, what's the best place, do you believe, to start?
Well, I think the best way to start is to start writing down what your problem is.
Right.
So understand what the customer problem is that you're looking to solve. Making sure you actually have a plan. And when I'm somebody who really likes to write things down, so I'd like to write down what the customer problem is and how I intend to solve that. And then go and ask questions. Go and ask people who you really trust. They may be solicitors, accountants, they may be friends and family. Go and ask them questions. And when you start to feel like there's a real problem to solve, then start to find what that solution needs to be.
Okay, so being really problem focused is key.
Oh, I think so. I think if you're looking to solve a problem, you are always going to have a customer base that are looking to buy from you.
Okay. Should you try and sell the product before it's actually built? We've heard that quite a bit. Do you reckon that's a good way of going about it?
I think selling the product before it's built is really part of validating the customer problem. I actually probably am agnostic to that. I think there are going to be situations where you can sell the product beforehand, and there's going to be situations where you need to validate that through asking questions.
Yeah. Okay. And when a business gets off the ground, it's going really well, and they're in New Zealand, they're looking to take their products or services overseas. You must see a lot of businesses breaking into those international markets as well. So what's your best bit of advice around expansion and global business?
That's a good question. My best piece of advice is make sure you've got local contacts and you really have expertise on the ground where you want to trade. Second piece is keep your operating costs down, because you don't want to put your local business in New Zealand at risk because you're going offshore. So those would be the two things for me. Make sure you've got good connections that can link you into the distribution networks you're looking for offshore. And then the second thing is make sure that you keep your operating costs offshore lean.
Okay, and what's the best way to build those connections in international markets from New Zealand?
Look, there's a number of agencies that will help you, from your bank to government agencies will help you connect into local markets overseas. For us, we use the Kiwi Landing Pad in the States, and we have connections into Asia as well. So talk to your banker, and if your banker can't help you, then I talk to local government agencies that are experts in this field.
Okay, and Kiwi Landing Pad's a good place to start?
Look, I think we send 4 customers a quarter, 16 customers a year to the Kiwi Landing Pad who use the desks, and we've had overwhelmingly positive response from them. What the Kiwi Landing Pad does is it provides a base for businesses that want to grow offshore to use not only the local expertise, but the distribution network which is available in the States.
Yeah, and that's in San Francisco.
That's in San Francisco. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And so for you, what does Be Good for Money mean for you, and how have you applied that in your business and in life?
Yeah, Be Good with Money really resonates with us. It's part of our blueprint of the Bank of New Zealand. And I guess the thing for us is everything we do, every strategy that we deliver to our customers, our number one foundation is how do we help businesses be better businesses as a result of the decision we're making or the product we're delivering to them. Okay. So that's really a really good foundational point for us, and it helps us with our decisioning whether it's the right thing to do for our customers.
Okay, and what advice would you give your younger self about money and how that might have changed things for you?
That's a really good question. My younger self, I think I knew nothing about money, and I've learnt how to manage money and to invest money over the years. And I think my advice was get to understand money and be confident with money a lot earlier than I perhaps have been.
Right, okay. And how did your upbringing shape your attitude towards money as well?
Yeah, look, money hasn't really been a key driver for me. I guess for me it's always been around creating and delivering successful outcomes for customers and for business.
Okay.
So money has been, obviously money facilitates a whole lot of that. But money hasn't been the key driver for me in order for me to get to the next stage of business or the next stage of my career.
Okay. And would you say you've had a key influence in your life who's taught you a lot around money and finances?
Yeah, I guess the key influence for me has been the lessons I've learned along the way,
right.
The mistakes I've made and the things that have worked well for me. Those have probably been the lessons that I've learned that have influenced my decision making moving forward.
Awesome. So Harry, just into our quick fire questions to finish off. So in a few words, what's the most misunderstood thing about startups?
Most misunderstood thing, Jake, is it's 24/7. It never stops. You eat, breathe and drink startup, and you eat, breathe and drink your business. So that'll be it.
And what's the most exciting space you see in New Zealand for small business growth?
Personally, I think the digital space is a space that really excites me. The world is getting increasingly smaller and information is much more readily available. And this is something that really excites me.
Yeah. And what trends have you noticed in the last couple of years about the changing business nature and culture here in New Zealand?
I think businesses are getting smaller and more nimble. With digital technology and the access to information globally, I think businesses are getting much more smaller and much more nimble. And you're seeing smaller players actually competing against corporates like ourselves much more readily. So I think that's how business is going to change over time.
Right, so more competition between startups and corporates, you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And over the next 5-10 years, where do you think the biggest changes are going to be as well, in addition to that?
I'm going to link back to the last question, which is the globe is getting smaller, digital technology information is much more readily available, and so businesses that can adapt and be relevant to the consumer and to their customers are the businesses that can be successful in the future.
So agility is going to be key?
Absolutely.
And do you think corporates as well need to become more agile to keep up with that new competition?
Absolutely. So I think corporates absolutely need to understand that as the globe is getting smaller, as businesses are starting to get more nimble, information's more readily available, that they need to adapt far faster than they perhaps have in the past.
Okay, fantastic. And what's next for you, Harry?
What's next for me? I'm always curious. I don't quite think I'm finished doing what I'm doing here, and I think there's a massive opportunity for us to create a business, the SME business in the Bank of New Zealand, that really makes an impact and helps businesses be successful in New Zealand.
Yep, fantastic. And what do you reckon that the 16-year-old Harry Ferreira would think of the man you've become today?
So I think the 16-year-old version of me would say, you've just started, you've got so much more to achieve, just get stuck in, be more resilient, ask more questions and get on with it.
Fantastic. Is there a bit of advice you would give him looking back?
I would say settle down. It doesn't all have to happen on a day.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
fantastic. So I guess just before we finish off, what quality of mind or state of mind do you think has best served you in your success?
Definitely, from my perspective, it's been resilience. There's been a lot of people along the journey, both in business and elsewhere, that have sort of questioned whether it's the right thing to do. And I think being resilient and actually being clear on what you want is a key part of making sure that your business is successful.
Cool. And Harry Ferreira, last time we were going to say this, last interview for me ever, so can you please look down this camera here and tell us what are your wise words for the people of New Zealand?
My wise words for the people of New Zealand are, understand the problem that you're trying to solve for, make a decision, act, go for it. Do not wait for people to question your decision. Just make sure you understand the problem and then go and act.
Awesome. Harry Ferreira, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, mate.
Cheers.